Let's be honest, we all have a pretty weird relationship with our phones, don't we? We can spend hours just scrolling and we tell ourselves, oh, I'm learning, or I'm staying informed. But what if that's just a story we tell ourselves? Today, we are diving deep into the Cognitive Bandwidth Manifesto to figure out how we can get back our most precious resource, our focus.
And let's just start with this bombshell right here. The source material pulls no punches. It says that when you're endlessly scrolling through your feed, you're not actually learning. Nope, you're caught in a very cleverly designed psychological trap.
And here's the first thing you really need to get. This isn't a personal failure. If you struggle to put your phone down, you're not weak. It's not a willpower problem. You're just human. You're going up against the system that has been built on decades of psychological research and is designed to do one thing: keep you hooked.
Okay, so if it's a trap, how does it actually work? Well, that brings us to the core mechanism behind it all, what we're calling the reward hijack. This is the how-to guide for grabbing your attention and, more importantly, holding on to it for hours. Now, the engine driving this whole thing has a pretty fancy name, variable reward reinforcement. But don't let the technical term fool you. The principle is incredibly simple, and it's incredibly powerful. When you do something and get an unpredictable reward, your brain is wired to repeat that action again and again and again.
And this is, hands down, the best way to picture it. It is literally a slot machine for your brain. Every time you pull down to refresh your feed, you're pulling the lever. You have no idea what you're going to get. It could be nothing, it could be a little win, or it could be the jackpot, that one amazing post or a flood of likes. That not knowing is precisely what keeps you coming back.
And here's the vicious cycle it creates. So first, you get that random, unpredictable reward. That triggers a little hit of dopamine in your brain, that jolt of pleasure. And that good feeling creates this powerful urge, this compulsion to do it just one more time. And so the loop goes on.
So, we've identified the problem, right? This constant, never-ending stimulation is basically hijacking our focus. So what on earth do we do about it? Well, the manifesto lays out two key strategies. We need to add a little friction, and we need to let our ideas incubate.
All right, let's tackle that first strategy, the friction solution. I want you to think of this as building a defensive wall, or maybe like a little moat, around your attention. Instead of just gritting your teeth and relying on willpower, you're actually going to change your environment. Friction theory is beautiful because it's so simple. The whole idea is to make those bad habits, like mindlessly opening up a social media app, just a little bit harder to do. You add one tiny obstacle, and that's often enough to break that automatic, unconscious habit. And these are some super practical ways you can start doing this, like today. Delete that app. It forces you to use the clunky website, which is annoying. And that's the point. Leave your phone in the other room, so you physically have to get up. Turn off the notifications so your phone isn't constantly yelling at you. Each of these things just adds a little bit of a delay.
Now this is absolutely crucial. The goal here is not to become a digital hermit who never checks an app again. The goal of friction is to interrupt the impulse. It creates a pause, just a single moment where your brain has a chance to ask, wait, do I really want to be doing this right now? That tiny moment, that's everything. So, what happens in that quiet space you just created by adding friction? Well, this is where the magic happens. This is the big payoff for all this effort. We've arrived at the incubation effect. I love this quote. It just flips the whole script on what we think of as productive. We've been told we need to be constantly consuming information to be smart or creative. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if your best, most original ideas can only find you when it's quiet?
And there is real science backing this up. When you stop actively trying to solve a problem, you go for a walk, you take a shower, you just stare out the window, your unconscious mind keeps chipping away at it. It starts making these connections that your focused, conscious brain just can't see. And that aha moment you have in the shower, that's the incubation effect right there.
And this might be the biggest mindset shift of them all. We've been trained to see boredom as this terrible thing, right? A failure, a void that has to be filled immediately, usually with our phones. But what if boredom isn't a bug? What if it's actually a future that allows your brain to do its absolute best work?
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. Let's lock in these key lessons from the manifesto and talk about how we can really start unlocking our own minds. So, to reclaim your cognitive bandwidth, just remember these 4 things. First, you've got to recognize the trap for what it is. It's a reward loop, not a library. Second, apply some friction. Make distraction just a little bit harder. Third, embrace disconnecting.
Let your mind incubate those amazing ideas. And finally, trust that your best insights will show up in the quiet moments that you create for them.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. That brilliant solution to that problem you have at work, that spark for a new creative project, that personal breakthrough you've been looking for, it's probably not hiding at the bottom of your social media feed. So the real question is, what great idea is just waiting for you to finally put down the phone and give it the space to come find you?